Okay, I'm going to call the meeting of the Finance, Economic Development, and Regional Affairs Committee to order. Is there any public comment? Please come up to the podium.
Hi, my name is Dana Holloway, and I'm speaking in support of Agenda Item 3B, the school impact fee changes. I did send out an email to the Fedrac, the remaining city council members, and a few other people about my opinion on that subject. I would like to spend a few minutes just to address some of the points as made in the May 21st city council meeting by Brian Davis regarding school impact fees and its impact on multifamily housing. The comment was made, as a result of high school impact fees, we haven't seen any market rate multifamily developments. I would submit that when the school impact fees were only $8,000, we still were having low-income housing built in 2014, 15, and 16, and not market rate. The only thing that we hadn't met as far as our affordable housing need and supply was the 30% and below AMI. And per our own policies, that if someone does build a low-income affordable housing development, they only have to guarantee or commit to rent to the low and the moderate income. That does not cover the 30%, which is the extreme or very low income. So even if we lower the rate for school impact fees, it doesn't mean we're necessarily going to cover that 30% AMI. So something for you guys to also consider. He made the statement that if school impact fees are decreased, more multifamily housing would result, but the mix of subsidized and market rate housing would improve. He did mention that was anecdotal. That's so, but again, on the same thing is that the current revised code of Federal Way only offers it to the moderate and low income. So unless we change our policies to include forcing developers to include the 30% AMI, we're not going to do the percentage of where you want to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? All right, let's start with the agenda then, and public comment. Committee business, approval of the summary minutes, July 23rd, 2019.
Could I say one thing?
Yeah.
Councilmember Lydia Seffa-Dawson is on the phone. She's joining us by phone.
Okay. Okay, approval of the summary minutes of July 23, 2019. Do we have a motion or any question about the minutes?
I move to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Item B.
Madam Chair, can
Yes.
we hold off on that item B for the school district staff?
Till they get here?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay. How about the OSA Fireworks Penalties?
I'm expecting somebody from the police department.
Should we just cancel this meeting and wait for everybody to come?
Sounds like a plan.
Well, they knew that would be.
Maybe they went to the wrong room. Hopefully they're not sitting over in the other room wondering what's going on in here.
Yeah. Yeah, because I didn't know we were meeting in here.
So in the interest of time, if you want me to go ahead with item D, which is the second quarterly financial report on page 72. On page 73, I think the quarterly report on page 1, I think what I'm trying to showcase on that report is how our sales tax, how well we're doing, and
Which one are you
also
on?
to show.
This one.
Oh, D, item D, okay. I happen to see. All right. The quarterly financial?
Are we all on board? Yes.
Did you say page 72? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So it's page 73 of the packet.
Go ahead.
So how well we're doing with our sales tax, and I think actually since 2000 increased by more than 39% over the past year. So I think because the economy is doing well, so that is also doing well. But the opposite is correct of the utility tax. I think our utility tax seems to be going down. Part of the reason for that is earlier, around 2007, 2010, that was when the gas price was really high. So I think because the gas price is much less than what it was then, that is also a factor. Our collection on the cell phone also has gone down. At the bottom of that chart, you can see the REIT. So that is mostly the transaction in the sale of a real estate property. We did very, very well in 2016. And that is kind of flattening out now. But nonetheless, our REIT has done very, very well. On that same page to your right, I think some of the good news is the admission tax. You know, the admission tax, I think because of the changes that the council made, we've seen almost about 56% increase in that. Our traffic safety, I think that also has grown by about 3%. So that is a good thing. On the next page, and that will lead me to the recent financial report. This is the state on page 74. So I'm talking pretty much about this email that I sent to all of the council. And a copy of it is, because it's not included in your packet, Dana is passing that out. So the report that you have before you now, that is the state auditor's report on the financial report on the single audit. So just a quick summary, I think the good news about this is there's no findings, so it's a clean audit. So I think unlike last year when they have a couple of corrections and couple of follow-up on some of the prior findings. So for this particular audit, both for the single audit and the financial report, it's a clean audit. So if you look through page 4 through 13, they pretty much explain what they've done, but again, there's no finding, there's no recommendation in there. On page 75, just to future challenges, that is where I talk about the sustainable revenue and the managing the expenses. Just to be clear, even though I say, well, you know, managing expenses, I think the city of Federal Way, because of how much we pay our employees, because of how well we stay within the budget, the city is already doing well in managing, you know, most of those costs in those areas. So by me pointing out managing costs in these, I'm not suggesting that we need to cut budget anywhere, but I do believe that part of a proper having a sustainable cannot be revenue alone. We need to constantly keep an eye on the expenses. But again, just the fact that the city of Federal Way paid less than most of the other cities, I think we are several miles ahead. And again, because of the turnover that we have, I think we're miles ahead. On the right side of that page 75, savings from SCORE. I think that is where I think when we amend the budget next year, after we get the result of the consultant's work on the salary study, I think we'll bring to the council how some of that money will be spent in terms of adding new employees or how to do salary adjustment. But that is how that will be spent. On the last page of that report, on the right side, debt and debt capacity. Debt and debt capacity to the right on the last page of that report, you can see for City of Federal Way, the council has within its power to levy or to have debt up to $140.58 million. So the council, that is what is considered councilmanic. So without going to the citizens, the council can levy that much. As of the end of 2018, we have $31.5 million in debt. So where you have the ability to have 140, we've only used 31.5 million. So I think that is a good thing with an excess capacity of almost 110 million. With the vote of the citizens, the council can levy up to 819 million. So because if not even exhausted the councilmanic, the idea of going to the citizens, we have not done that at all. So at the bottom of that same page, I listed what made up of that 31.5 million in debt. That is the Federal Way Community Center. You know, the original debt was 12.4 million. As of the end of 2018, we have 9.89, or about $10 million left. The target property, 6 million, you know, because we're only paying interest for now, we have 6 million left. Then SCORE, the original debt was 15.52 million. We have 12.89 million, and that is scheduled to be refinanced at the end of this year. Then HUD, you know, which is part of what we use for the Performing Arts Center, 3.03 million. We have 2.71 million left. So adding those four debt together, that is how we arrive at that 31.5 million. Below that are just the interfund loan. PAEC, that is what we use for the construction. The council approved 13 million, and as of the end of now, we have 6.76 million outstanding. So that is the one that we will be refinancing, and we'll be talking about that shortly. So that is the summary report on that quarterly report.
Do we have any questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Ade. I just want to let you know that I really like the graphic, the graph. It's easy to see. If I may suggest that this is to show the revenue for the last 10 years.
Yes.
If you could prepare another chart to show expenditure for the last 10 years,
Okay.
so that we can see, you know,
Okay.
the money going in and the money going out.
Okay.
That would be great.
Okay. Just as a caution, what I have done here is just the major revenue. It's not the total revenue for the city. I identified just about 4 of the city's major revenue. There's still more than 15 different revenues the city get that are not reported in here. But these are just the major revenue. So if I were to provide the expenditure over the past year, caution needs to be taken, not to show that, oh, whoa, wait a minute, you're spending more than the revenue, but that, you know, I think I can do that and make a disclaimer to that effect.
Then would it be possible to show all sorts of revenues and then show all the expenditures so that we can compare apple to apple?
Absolutely, I can do that without necessarily identifying whether they are property tax or whatever. I can show total revenue and total spending, yes.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else? Do we have to do anything here? Or is that just info? Okay, we need a committee recommendation. Somebody like to move to forward the second quarterly financial report for the October 1st, 2019 council for presentation? Or would somebody like to just second that?
I second.
Okay, we got
How
Lydia
about
second.
someone moving it?
Lydia, did you move that?
Oh, I thought you already moved it. Yes, I'll move it.
Okay,
Second.
okay, we have motion moved in second. All in favor? Signify by
Aye.
saying aye. Okay. That passes. Now we'll go back to item
Okay, item
B.
E,
Item B.
park construction and interfund loan,
No, I see we have people
Oh.
from the school here.
yes,
So we're going back to item B.
okay.
Federal Way Public Schools 2020 impact fees.
Good evening. My name is Sally McLean. I'm here on behalf of Dr. Tammy Campbell, and I have Deputy Superintendent Dr. Danny Pfeiffer with me here this evening also. I apologize for the conflict I had in my schedule and just want to tell you I appreciate the flexibility and recognizing that I still haven't figured out the time warp continuum and how to be in two places at one time. So I will share a little bit of information with you verbally this evening in regards to the school impact fee, and then hopefully be prepared to answer any questions that you have. So as a reminder, or as information for those who might be hearing this for the first time, school impact fees are a one-time payment by residential developers to help mitigate or offset the impacts of new development. For schools, the impact is an increased need for new classrooms to serve additional scholars. These school impact fees can't be used for hiring more teachers, buying additional buses, or anything else to support the daily operations of the schools. They can only be used to create more classroom space. Typically, you'll see school impact fees spent to add portables to existing campuses. School impact fees are calculated annually, and they are based on a formula that was jointly developed many years ago now with the master builders and King County. They include concepts called student generation rates, which means the number of new students that are coming from a new development. They include costs, so costs to the school district for land, if you were acquiring land, or school construction costs, but only the amount of school construction costs that is related to new capacity, and temporary facility costs or portables. The fees also include credits or offsets to those calculated costs, including any funding we might be getting from the state through school construction assistance funding. For us here in Federal Way, a credit for the K-3 class size reduction funding that we're receiving, and then a credit for the actual tax rates our local taxpayers are paying for the bonds. Those credits are applied against the costs and then further discounted by 50%, which is considered to be the local share. There are a couple of things that are, of course, continuing to impact Federal Way School District's multifamily fee. We have unusually high student generation rates out of the multifamily complexes that have been built over the last 5 years. There have been 844 units built over the last 5 years, and we have more than 1,000 students coming to us out of those complexes. That is about 3.5 times higher than the King County average. So it is still a substantial impact in terms of finding room in our schools to address that need. We also know that the bonds that the voters authorized to rebuild our schools also included some funding for new capacity. Only the amount attributed to the new capacity cost of those new schools is included in that fee. So roughly, the impact fee formula includes only costs for elementary and high school capacity and represents about $40.5 million of the $450 million bond that our voters passed. So again, it's just based on increased capacity for the projects currently underway, which include within the city of Federal Way, Mirror Lake, Lake Grove, and Wildwood, and within the city of Kent, Star Lake Elementary, and Totem Middle School, and within unincorporated King County, I think, is Thomas Jefferson High School. So when we talk about student generation rates, I think it's important to point out the fact that these students are, 2/3 of the scholars are new to the district. Out of those 1,000 students that are coming out of the multifamily complexes, 2/3 of them are new to the district, creating demands for more classroom space. We've done things like make minor modifications to elementary school boundaries. We've certainly added new capacity for that influx in terms of remodeling, 6 additional costs and things of that nature over the years. And we're excited to be able to open our new schools, hopefully this fall, that will help accommodate some of that increased student enrollment. So on behalf of the scholars and taxpayers of Federal Way Public Schools, we respectfully request Fedrac's approval to the full council of the 2020 school impact fees as submitted.
Thank you, Sally. Any questions?
Yes, I do have a question.
Okay. Go ahead, Lydia.
Yeah, when Sound Transit is done in 2023 and the surplus land is used for TOD, I had a constituent ask me or share with me that her understanding was there was going to not be a school impact fee on that development. Is that the case?
Can you restate the question? I couldn't understand it.
Can you restate that, Lydia, a little louder?
Yeah.
School impact
Can you
fees?
see better now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear?
So I was informed by a constituent that when Sound Transit TOD is done, the surplus property where there's going to be some kind of a housing development, the person's understanding is there was not going to be a school impact fee. Is that the case, or do you know anything about that?
I will have to follow up on that with our legal counsel. I'm unaware of any exemptions in the city ordinance or the King County ordinance that would exempt surplus property that's being converted to single-family or multifamily homes from being exempt from school impact fees. But I'll be happy to follow up and share the answers I get with Ade so he can forward that along.
Thank you.
Or you can.
So the surplus land that Sound Transit will offer for sale has to be offered to, a certain percentage has to be offered to affordable housing providers. Regardless of what type of housing, if housing ends up going on that land, my understanding is that the school impact fees, they will pay school impact fees. The nexus of the school impact fees is that there are children that go into the schools. Downtown has a lower percentage, I think it's 50%, but there's still school impact fees. What they might be saying is that they won't pay taxes, and that's kind of speculative to say at this point whether or not they'll pay taxes or not.
Actually, the person was clear about school impact fees when she talked to me. So that helps me. Thank you.
Yeah, like Sally said, I'm unaware that school impact fees would be waived for that type of development.
It's what Brian said for the Federal Revised Code. It's a 50%.
Wait a second, I'm going to call you so you can come up here and speak, and we'll have you on the tape, okay? Anything else?
I have some questions.
Okay, go ahead.
So I have some questions. I think they were sent to you today.
They were, thank you.
Do you have answers to those? Or?
I do.
Okay.
So one of the questions that was posed by Councilmember or Deputy Mayor Honda is, have other cities in the school district adopted these yet? So the City of Federal Way is early in this adoption process for the 2020 fees. I will tell you that the City of Auburn is scheduled for adoption on October 8th. The City of Kent has a public hearing scheduled on November 5th, followed by council action on November 19th. King County adopts school impact fees as part of their budget cycle, and they have not yet established those dates. It is anticipated that those budget hearings will be scheduled in November. There was a question from Deputy Mayor Honda regarding how much money the school district has received in impact fees in the last year. And so school impact fees are assessed on a calendar year basis, which I know coincides with the city's fiscal year. Our fiscal year is September 1 to August 31st, so just for clarity's sake, I'm sharing with you our fiscal year results. So in 2017-18, we collected $840,000 in school impact fees from Auburn, the City of Auburn, City of Federal Way, City of Kent, and King County. Des Moines has not adopted the same process, so we still have to individually negotiate school impact fees with developers in Des Moines. In 2018-19, that increased to $1.7 million. We have, over the last 2 years, spent more than half of that. We have a remaining balance of about $1.1 million, which again, as we get ready with Mirror Lake and the Star Lake Totem remodel, we have a number of portables that are in very good condition that we are looking to relocate. So we would anticipate to help offset capacity needs in other locations. So we are anticipating that the balance of the impact fees received over the last 2 years would be fully spent. Just as perspective, again, the remaining balance of $1.1 million represents about 2% of the total construction cost that we're looking at for the added capacity that we're adding to our schools. How do our fees compare? Our single-family fee is the second lowest in King County, and again, these are the fees that have been adopted by the various school boards, not yet adopted by cities that I'm aware of. So our single-family, Fife is the only jurisdiction with a lower fee at $4,531. Just as a place to benchmark, North Shore is the highest with $20,092 as a school impact fee for their single-family homes. Our multifamily fee continues to be the highest, again, due to our student generation rates that are unusually high and the construction of new capacity. Auburn is the second highest at $14,668, and the Auburn School District has experienced growth similar to what Federal Way has seen. Auburn has had one large multifamily development which has moved their fees up to $14,000, and we have had 3 in that same time frame. I would probably defer to your legal counsel in regards to your question about can the City of Federal Way change the formula to exclude some types of multifamily. I think the city has amended the school impact fee ordinance in the past. Specifically, there is, within the downtown frame and core, there's an additional 50% reduction to multifamily development in the frame and core. That's been in place for almost 20 years. So it's been a while since any sort of amendment has been made. And I think the last question was when the Kent City Council amended their ordinance to cap fees for both single family and multifamily. And the question was, how has that impacted the school district? So Kent modified their ordinance to cap fees, but it's escalated annually based on a construction index. Next year, their multifamily maximum fee will be $9,193. Even with the cap, there has been no multifamily development in our overlapping areas. Again, you've heard all multifamily development in the school district over the last 5 years has been within the City of Federal Way.
Go ahead, and then we've got somebody in the audience that wants to.
So,
No? She took care of it? Okay.
you've suggested that the rates for single-family be decreased this year?
Correct.
Why is that?
the student generation rates fell in single-family homes, and that's one of the components in that cost variable. And it causes significant fluctuations in that fee from year to year. So it's just a result of the same mathematical formula, but the variables change every single year. So our student generation rate numbers are down, and we have probably some single-family residences that have fallen off the 5-year look-back window, because you can only count students in the last 5 years that have come into new development.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
Sorry, this is a bit odd. I'm used to the old informal format where we just talk at free will. But if the chair would allow me to ask a question of Ms. McLean, is that okay?
Yes.
So just to clarify, the numbers that you gave about school impact fees collected within the last couple fiscal years, and you mentioned that they were in the various jurisdictions that the Federal School District covers.
Yes.
Does it break it down into what was specifically within the city of Federal Way?
Yes. So in 2017-18, there were $303,000, I'm rounding, I can give you these, $303,806.96 collected in our fiscal year, 2017-18, and in 18-19, $416.13 in 18-19.
And by chance, does it separate the type of housing that it was collected on?
No.
Okay.
I apologize. No, I did not do that.
I'm just curious how much is multi versus single family?
Certainly a large payment from King County for the 4th large multifamily complex that's commonly referred to as Watermark, just outside of the city of Federal Way boundaries. Those impact fees were close to $1 million.
Right, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Chair?
Yes. go ahead.
Thank you. Sally, thank you for your presentation. I have a question regarding the impact fee for the multi-family units.
Yes.
So for Federal Way, we are looking at 20,768.
Correct.
And I believe I heard you correctly that Auburn, Kent, they have a lower fee on the multi-family unit.
Yes, Auburn's has been recommended at $14,668. Kent has a cap of $9,193. No matter what the individual school district fee calculation is, they cap it based on their ordinance and their escalation clause.
So then, with that information, my concern is that it might put City of Federal Way in a disadvantage in terms of investment from the developer, because if they are going to build here, they have to pay much more compared to Auburn or Kent.
That is correct. However, our single-family fee is substantially lower. So it's lower than Auburn's, it's lower than anybody's except Fife's. And again, the cost of these are the true costs of creating additional capacity to our taxpayers in this community, and the true costs of the impacts of that student generation rate. And I will speculate that the higher fees have not dissuaded large multifamily developers from developing here. I think that there are smaller developers who have been chilled by that school impact fee, but certainly we know that the property down by Celebration Park is currently being viewed by at least 2 developers for another large multifamily development.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Yes. Brian, can you share information about that, please? I thought that Devco had decided not to build there.
I've not heard that they have not decided. That was a double negative.
Oh, yeah. It could be.
That means it's yes.
I've heard no such news. We had a pre-application conference with them, and they were fully aware of the school impact fees before they came in for a pre-application. So that signifies to me that they know of the fees, and that's not deterring them from, like Sally said, it's not deterring them from moving forward with the development. We've not seen a formal application yet, but my understanding is they're still pursuing it, or they haven't stopped.
So have we had anyone come to the city since we've had the fees so high who was interested in doing multifamily and then found out about the fees and decided not to?
Yes, and I would disagree somewhat with what Ms. McLean said earlier about it's dissuading a certain type of developers. It's not dissuading those that are able to get help with their bottom line in development projects, such as with certain low-income projects. It's not going to dissuade those kind of developments. We've seen in the last, since the multifamily fees went up in upwards of 20,000, we've seen about 1,000 units come in and leave Federal Way. They were coming to the counter. They wanted to inquire about, zoning, property. They even had sketches drawn up as potential projects, and they found out about school impact fees and then left. So what Ms. Holloway said earlier is true about what I said, that the mix of housing that would be, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the mayor or really the city for that matter, I'm just speaking as a planner of urban development. We're going to see one type of housing with these high multifamily fees, and that's going to be those that can get assistance with the type of housing. It's not going to be market rate.
Right.
If the fees were lower, we would see those, we would continue to see those, but we'd also see those 1,000+ units of market rate developments that we've seen walk away. And those developments would not only pay the school impact fees, but the revenue from their property taxes would also go to the city and the school district in perpetuity. Whereas a lot of these developments, we won't see any of that.
So if someone wanted to come and build condos in Federal Way, would they need to pay these impact fees also?
There are certain exemptions that they can apply for if they, I believe it's in our code, if they show that if it has some kind of restriction, that doesn't have basically school-aged kids.
Right.
They can be exempted from that. But aside from that exemption, I don't know of any other way out of paying school impact fees.
So I just, if I may clarify, so I did say that our impact fees had a chilling effect. The multifamily had a chilling effect on certain developers. So I think you and I are saying the same things. I didn't say it as eloquently as you did. And I also would like to indicate that on behalf of Dr. Campbell, we recognize that there are different types of multifamily housing, and we're certainly willing, if interested in continuing to have dialogue with staff about what options might look like that would be unique here in Federal Way.
Options to decrease these rates, or is that what you mean?
Options to look at different categories of multifamily. I don't know,
Okay.
we don't options to explore ideas. How about that? We're not coming to the table with anything specific, just wanted to share that we recognize that as partners in our community and wanting to be centered on opportunity, that there's an opportunity for conversation.
I would like to see that done before we vote on this. I think since we are early in the game, according to Sally, with the other cities coming in as late as November, perhaps we could have those discussions and see what would happen if we had found ways to exempt some of these, maybe a duplex or a triplex, or from being considered multifamily and paying these rates.
I would support Deputy Mayor
Well,
on that, because I feel like if we are going to move this forward to the council, this $21,000 price tag on the multi-family unit will put our city at a disadvantage compared to nearby cities.
I'd like to make a comment here. I think that Sally should come to the council meeting and do a presentation.
Yeah.
So that we all hear the same thing, and then we can have a discussion on it. So I'd like to change the recommendation here to ask Sally to come to the next council meeting and do a presentation.
Madam Chair.
Yes?
Yeah, can I make a suggestion that maybe?
No, I just made the suggestion. It's-
Sure. Can I make another suggestion? That maybe we do like a work study session on this maybe, potentially, and still have it on the same day, same night, the city council meeting?
Well, we're having the work study session right here, and this is
What-
being recorded.
Sure, but it sounds like there's more questions to be had, and I think if we have a work study with the full council, that
Well, the
could,
full council doesn't have to make a decision. I'm just saying put it on the
Okay.
agenda for the full council and have Sally come and do a presentation. so everybody's hearing it.
I would say that at the next council meeting, we do have a study session before the regular meeting, so I don't know that we could fit this into that.
Okay.
But I do think that we need to have more discussions before we vote on this. I have another question for Brian. For when a low-income developer comes into the city, what percentage of the units have to be considered low-income?
For what threshold are you referring? To
To
be classified as low
Right.
income? I can get back to you with an email on that. I don't know.
No,
off the
I'd
top of my head.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So what do we want to do? Do we want to have this presented at the full council? With some,
Discussion?
okay,
Madam Chair,
yes,
I think part of what Mayor's thought was if you're going to have the school district make a presentation, that you may also have the staff, somebody like Brian, also make a presentation also,
that would
to
be
be able to share additional information so
Yeah.
that the council will be better informed. So
I think that would be fine. I think we need to have more information. I think it needs to be at the full council meeting, so you can present your side and whatever other information we have. How does that sound, Sally?
I believe a day when he reached out to Dr. Campbell had talked about the full council meeting. You please recognize that it's also our school board meeting night. So I will work with Dr. Campbell and Dr. Pfeiffer to do our best to provide that coverage. I think what we had hoped for was an opportunity to collaborate with staff and discuss various options, but I'm certainly happy to come in and do the presentation that we had shared a couple years ago, updated with more current numbers.
And you can still work with the staff, too.
Okay,
I think the whole council should be a part of this.
I appreciate that.
A suggestion, and no, it doesn't have to be taken, but if the school district wants to work with us to come up with a solution, perhaps that should occur before you come to the full council for a presentation. Does that sound logical
How about doable?
or doable? I'm looking at staff because.
Yeah, we can definitely have a discussion with the school district on this subject, about the fees and, different types of options that would work. We want to work for them, but also work for, maybe help us get a better mix of housing for the city as well.
Correct.
Does this have to be done by the next meeting, or can it wait?
I would defer.
I think it depends on what the council wants to do, because whatever is passed by the council would not go into effect until January.
Okay,
So we have plenty of time.
so let's
You know.
let's not just have it at the next one. Let's give you some time to work with the staff here and come in with a presentation,
Okay.
To the
welcome
whole council.
opportunity.
okay?
Okay.
I do want to say, I definitely support the schools, I always have, but I think that we need to have a better understanding of what works for this city and what doesn't. And we've seen that these rates are pretty high for some developers, so we need a better understanding of how we can work with everybody and still support the school district for what they need.
And we do want to support you guys, we really do.
And again, I think I'm hoping you're hearing me say that this is something Dr. Campbell is open to. So
Yeah.
we look forward to
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Can I add something also?
Yes, you may.
Yeah, I do support that we do wait, because when the $20,000 school impact fee happened, it was during when those the three properties were built, and since then we have not seen a huge development like that. So I really would support for us to have the conversation and see if there's ways to reduce that fee, because I mean having the highest fee in our region I think is a little too much, and I, like Councilmember Tron said, I would hate to scare away smaller developers to come to our city. So I do support that we wait and see what happens.
So just to be sure, what the committee is recommending is for the presentation to be on the October 15th. Correct?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
They can work together.
if you can make it for that. If not, we'll have to go the next meeting after that. But I really would like to have people have a chance to work on this and then bring it to the full council.
Okay.
Does that sound okay to you, Sally?
We haven't gone down this path together before, other than with the 50% discount in the frame and core. Certainly we'll do our best to meet your expectations and Dr. Campbell's expectations if October 15th is the date. A couple more weeks might be nice. I can probably say that.
That's kind of just an arbitrary number. How about we think about it and get back to you?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say the same thing. Why don't you allow us to, like Sally just mentioned, we haven't done this before, so why don't we at least have a first meeting and just see what we're dealing with, and then we can get back on a specific date. But we realize that it's got to get taken care of by the end of the year if we want to either keep the fee as is or venture onto something
We
else.
can definitely take care of it by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Because I'll be gone after that.
I can coordinate a meeting between the school district and our staff, and
Okay.
we can go from there.
And Brian?
And
Yeah,
Brian.
yeah,
Yeah, both
that's what I
courses.
mean.
He said our staff, so, okay. Thank you very much,
Okay,
Sally.
thank you.
Dana, you don't want to make a comment? Okay.
It sounds like Councilmember Sepa Dawson got disconnected.
She got disconnected? Or did she hang up on us?
She,
Thank you, Sally.
Thanks, Sally.
Thanks, Dana.
Did you get hold of,
yeah, she's here. He didn't know about it. So they don't staff this meeting.
yeah, I talked to him. Yes.
What are we doing now?
We're doing,
I know what we're
fireworks.
doing, but are we waiting for something here?
Are we
Are
waiting
we-
for Lydia?
Lydia, can,
I'm here.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
Goodness.
Okay, so now we'll move on to the OSA Fireworks Penalties. Item C.
Good evening, Chairwoman Duclos, Deputy Mayor, council members. July 8th, council meeting, we gave you our after-action report on firework enforcement. And subsequent to that presentation, there was some email communication by council about revisiting the penalty amount for firework violation. For the federal way, our penalty for firework violation, whether you're lighting them up or you're in possession of them, is $300. And that $300 penalty went up, okay, I'll stop here for a photo op.
Everybody, excuse me. She's, go ahead.
So our penalty used to be $100, and it progressed up to $200, and I think it was $250 or $300. But bottom line is, first offense now is $300. So our staff did some research, and Tacoma penalty is $257, Bellevue is $1,000, Port Angeles is $500, Spokane is $1,000, Kent is $250, Kennewick is a misdemeanor. So it varies from $250 to $1,000 to being, you can be arrested for possession of fireworks. We're always seeking voluntary compliance. We try to do heavy campaign in terms of prevention, and we've done that for a number of years. And overall, we've seen the fire violation reduction, and most of the surrounding cities have some level of restriction, but there are areas near us that have fireworks are legal, particularly south of us and so forth. So there are places that our residents sometimes call in complaints about fireworks, and it is legal. For example, in unincorporated King County, people can do fireworks and so forth. So each year, we issue probably 20, 25 tickets with our emphasis teams. So it's really a policy decision. Police department really doesn't have much, recommendation. If you want to up the fine, that's fine. Leave it the same as, $300. We don't think it's going to make a huge level of difference in terms of violations. The reason I say that is quite often it's involving juveniles, and they're fascinated with the fireworks itself. And generally speaking, you're going to be, you're still going to have quite a few firework violations on the 4th of July.
And I can vouch for that, believe
Yeah.
me, especially at 2 a.m. in the morning and at 4:30 in the morning.
It's certainly a work in progress.
And I
for
don't
about a
think
few
it,
days.
and I don't think it was from Federal Way. I think it was from Northeast Tacoma. Councilmember? Deputy Mayor, excuse me.
Thank you. So the Bellevue Police Department says that they have a $1,000 infraction, and they issued 5 infractions, 3 written warnings, unknown number of verbal warnings, and had 153 firework complaints. So that must work in Bellevue to keep people from using fireworks if they only wrote 5 infractions.
That doesn't necessarily equate to the amount of violation. It just depends on how much resource you have and how many officers you put out to do enforcement. Some
Okay.
communities, you're going to have emphasis teams. Some communities, you're not going to have any emphasis teams. Because there are times, there's certain call load that occurs at certain period of the time that we just simply can't respond to, all the calls for violation for fireworks. But, we have our teams out and we try to, there's that enforcement part that has to exist, where people know that if there's no enforcement at all, then there'll be more violations. But you always try to seek voluntary compliance, but there is that enforcement aspect that we put in place as well.
Do you think over the years since we've had this, that we've had less fireworks, illegal fireworks in the city?
Oh,
or more?
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, when we first made fireworks illegal here, when I started here 23 years ago, you couldn't get out of the neighborhood. There'd be so many violations. Clearly, you don't see that today. I mean, our officers tell us, they're hard to find. But there's a peak time in which people are lighting them off, and we can't get to all of them at that point.
I would just say this was quite frustrating to many of our citizens, not just this last 4th of July, but the 4th of July before. And having had a fire behind my house because of a firework, and the fear that that puts into you when you see the flames behind your house and you know it was a firework that started it. And we've had a house burned down because of, a rocket landed on it. We must be able to do something to encourage more of our citizens to not use illegal fireworks.
Absolutely. I would tell you that it's work in progress. All the things I mentioned, we are ticketing people, and we are giving, we're doing the educational piece, but it's like speeding. We put traffic officers out there. We want no one to be speeding, but we know that those violations still occur, right? Except speeding is all year round. Fireworks is, a period of 5 or 6 days. But, we put a priority on enforcement. We just can't get to all the violations, is what I'm telling you.
One of the things we could do, though, is put out those electronic signs. Fireworks are illegal. If you were caught doing it, it's going to cost you $500.
Yep, reader board, sure.
I mean,
That's one
read a
component,
word,
yep.
all around, and those signs that we have.
Yep, we should
It
put
won't
out all
stop
of
the
them.
people in Northeast Tacoma from doing it, and I can hear those, because they went on until 2 a.m. in the morning and then started at 4:30 the next morning.
I concur,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
But I
good
think
to-
maybe try putting some of those signs around like that would help. And let them know that the fine is $500 if you're caught, or something, whatever it is.
Right now, it's 300, so
Well,
you suggesting we increase it?
I would increase it to 500. Huh?
4,000.
Or 1,000. He's worse than me. I'd make it a significant fine.
Where it's hurt.
Yeah.
If we were to increase the fine, is there a period of time, does it take a year before that?
That's correct.
So-
So any change in the fire Fireworks law takes effect a year later.
So if we were to increase it in 2019, it wouldn't, right now, it wouldn't take effect until,
It would take effect 1 year after the date that we pass it.
okay.
I still think we should do it whether it's going to take effect a year from now or not. Because I think when people get it hit in their financial pocket, it's a good lesson for them. Go ahead.
Oh, Martin.
Oh.
Are you saying something?
I'm about to, as soon as you recognize me.
Well, that may take a time.
Okay, that's okay.
Yes, Councilmember Moore, go ahead.
No, I'm totally open. In the past, when we raised the fees, I've supported it. But I think for me, what the chief just said, I think it is important for us to consider thinking about as we're discussing raising the fee, which is, it won't really do anything. So even if we raise it to $2,000 or $5,000, will it really do anything? And if, Chief, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're thinking that even if we raise the price, not the price, the fee, not the fee,
The
Penalty.
penalty. The
the
penalty.
penalty, the fine, thank you. Sorry. It's really not going to make much of an impact. Is that what I'm understanding you say?
It'll be hard to quantify and measure. What I would tell you is that if you're doing the educational piece and reader board, you're putting it in the paper, we do the press release saying, hey, if you do this, it's going to be $500. It's going to catch people's attention. It could have some impact. I'm not going to tell you that it doesn't, because that's why we have school zones where it's $250. It catches people's attention. But on the other hand, if council expectation is by making it 1,000, you're going to reduce it by 50% of the violation. I'm just trying to be a realist here. That's not going to happen. And it's generally, I'm going to be honest with you, people who are doing firework violation are the people that are probably least likely to be able to afford to pay the fine.
Right.
Most law-abiding citizens who, they're going to manage their, or give correct direction to their kids and so forth, they're not going to be doing that. It's going to be lots of juveniles. And when we do catch people, I can tell you that it'll be our residents who certainly probably can't afford a $1,000 penalty.
So that's where my concern is, just thinking
I
about
didn't
it.
say 1,000, I said 500.
I understand. That's just where my concern is, but I'm looking forward to listening to more and
I
hearing the
really
discussion.
think that if we blanket the city with signs and information, that if you do it, I'm not saying it's going to be 100%, but we could cut that maybe down to 50% of the people that did it before. And we do have Northeast Tacoma that doesn't, I don't think, have those regulations. But I know one night, not last year, but the year before, I went out driving around because it was going off, not in my neighborhood, but I drove around and I did see a police car pulling into where the fireworks were going off. So they nailed one family who were really sending them off. I think we have to try to let people know that there will be a penalty if they're caught. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
If someone goes to the expense of buying fireworks that are illegal, I'm not sure that even a $500 penalty would stop them from doing that if they enjoy doing that and if they have the money to do that. I don't think these are inexpensive to buy. I don't know, I don't buy them,
I don't know, you go over to the tribes and buy them there.
but I've heard that they're expensive. So if juveniles are setting them off, instead of a fine, maybe they could have community service or something, but not only does it cause issues with our citizens, but it causes issues with animals. It causes potential injury, which has a cost all of its own. We've had a house burn down. That was a huge cost to the owner and to the folks that were renting that home out. So it is something that we need to consider, and obviously we have time because it won't take effect next summer, but I think we need to continue to discuss this.
Well, and I will tell you, my dog just can't stand it, and that's why I will never stay in Federal Way for the 4th of July or January 1st. Because I will not, at least out in Ocean Shores, they have to do them out at the beach. And it doesn't, get all the way out to where the houses are. But I won't stay here again and put my dog through that. Yes?
Thank you,
And then-
Madam Chair.
And then we need to move on.
Sure. Deputy Mayor, I would definitely support that concept more so. And that's, Madam Chair, I think putting out the solar lights, I don't know what to call them, solar
They're reader boards.
reader boards, thank you. Putting those out, I fully support. I think it's a really good thing. I don't know if you've done that in the past. I don't think we have. And second of all, I very much support the idea of if it's a youth that's committing that, I think maybe community service is more appropriate instead of fining that youth $1,000. And the fine, I'm okay if it's with adults.
Well,
that are
that's what I was
committing that.
talking about. I wasn't
Okay.
talking about finding a youth.
Right, so I think if we move forward with this policy and looking to amend it, then I would encourage those items to be put in place.
Yeah, juveniles would not get a $1,000 ticket.
No.
Oh, okay.
We have to write a case and forward it to the juvenile prosecutor's office, and they decide. So that their juveniles are dealt with separately. So I don't want you to think that we're writing a $1,000 ticket to juveniles. It's-
And I was saying 500.
Or even 500.
Yeah.
I never
But-
said 1,000, so
Huh?
I didn't say 1,000.
What the chief is saying is that the city doesn't have criminal jurisdiction over juveniles.
Right.
So we can't give them community
Yeah.
service. We'd have to have the county do that for us, which isn't going to happen.
But I just thought that we need to do better to let people know that fireworks are not allowed in the city, and there will be a fine. And 500 to me would, make a dent in somebody's pocketbook. So, well, we don't do anything with that here. We can take it to the full council.
I just want to point out that based on the research that's done by Deputy Chief Sumter, there are 3 police departments, Belleville Police Department, where they have that $1,000 infraction fines, and Belleville PD do believe that the penalty is sufficient deterrent. The Issaquah PD, they impose penalty as a criminal offense, and again, the Issaquah Police Department believes this to be sufficient deterrent. And then Port Angeles PD with the $500 fine, and they do believe the penalty to be sufficient deterrent. So to me, by looking at this research, it seemed to me that the higher the fine, it's, it sends a strong signal to people that don't do it, don't violate the law. So I think, so right now we have $300?
It's $300.
300. Maybe it's up to the council, but I think it's maybe for the council to raise that up a little bit so that it sends a signal to the people that,
I agree, I think, and the other thing is, we need to have signs up all over the place, on the reader boards and signs as people are driving, so they know that this is what's going to happen if they shoot them off. Unfortunately, we have Northeast Tacoma. I don't know if they will do something like that or not, but it's worth a try.
Yep, we'll certainly make that request for the boards.
Okay, thank
Yep,
you.
every year.
Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Microphone, please.
Yeah, I have Ms. Colwell from KeyBank to,
All right. Good evening, Caitlin Caldwell with KeyBank Capital Markets, and I'm here to represent the finance team, looking to get your support for an ordinance to issue up to $7 million of limited tax general obligation bonds to provide permanent financing for the Performing Arts and Invent Center project. This is just sort of a preliminary run-through, and we'll be back to present the first reading on October 1st. Just a little bit about the rationale here. When interest rates hit a 3-year low on August 15th, so just about a month ago. We'd spoken to a day and we thought, because interest rates were so low and because the city was already in the process of going through a bond issue to refinance a score debt, we thought it would be a good time to sort of kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have at this point.
Questions? Of course, Deputy Mayor.
So how much would the payment be on $7 million? What would it be, once a year, twice a year?
Yep. So you would make a payment twice a year, and that payment, twice a year. The annual payment would total about $447,000 right now, based on today's interest rates. So that could shift in between now and pricing, which is scheduled for the first week of November.
For 20 years?
For 20 years, that's correct.
And where will that money be coming from? A day?
Yes.
Where will the $447,000 be coming from to pay this?
I think because we're serving that interfund loan now. So instead of paying ourselves, we'll just be paying outside and we will have the cash available. Is that
Okay. If we have if we have it available, it's not going to cut into any programs or cut any staff or anything?
I think part of also, actually, I was just talking to Bill, part of also what we're counting on, the state gave us a $1 million grant, which, because of the way the grant was written, we haven't been able to use it. I think the mayor's office is working with our legislator to rewrite the request, and maybe if they allow us to use that 1 million to go towards the construction, that will further reduce this 7 million. But I think funding this debt, we're already making payment. So the payment will come from REIT, will come from any other source. But, you know, I think instead of having to pay it off within 3 years, we have 20 years. Therefore, that also lessen the burden on the city. And also, there will be a 10-year call provision. That is, if we have more money, instead of waiting for 20 years to pay this off, we can call the rest of the bond in about 10 years and pay it off.
The $1 million grant that you're talking about?
Yes.
What was that? Why did we ask for it, and why did we get it, and when did we get it?
I think the request that was made by the former Performing Arts Center director at that time, detail, we will use it for design, we will use it for this, but by the 2017, we've already paid for the design. We've already paid for some of these things. We've used other grants. So because of the items that we identify in the request that we will use it for, we've already paid for it with other grants. So we can now use the state grant to pay for what we've already paid for with another grant. So now we're working with the legislator. Instead of spelling out that we will use it for design, we will use it for this, we're asking to use it for the construction, period. And since we have more than $7 million that can be funded, it will be really easy to reduce that.
When will we know if the state would agree to that?
We're just making contact with them. So, you know, I think Bill is trying to send a letter to one of our representatives. I contacted the director for Department of Commerce, and I've contacted the individual that we work with in that department. But again, because it's a legislation that spelled out what the money can be used for, I think they are thinking that it needs to be done through the legislators.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
That was just, we don't have to take any action, do we? Yeah, we do.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move to forward the proposed ordinance to first reading on October 1st, 2019.
Second?
Motion made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, moving on. Vouchers, July 2019.
Thank you, Kathleen. For voucher from July, Deputy Mayor sent me some question, and I've tried to respond to that and send it back, but I'll try to identify some of those. On page 106, we have payment to CR floors and interior for more than 9,000. I think that is for settlement of damage that was done to their property, unavoidable damage, when we're doing the construction for the Park Highway Phase 5. So it's just a matter of making them whole for the damage that was done to their property. On page 116, the payment to HUD, 159, actually on that page 116, right at the top, that shows 27,426. That is the interest portion that goes with the 159,000 that Deputy Mayor was asking for. Is the interest and principal payment on the Section 108 loan. On page 127.
Before you go there, I have a question on page 122.
Okay, 122.
Yeah, we're talking about the PAC, the outside steps. Are those included in this?
How much?
I was just asking, it's, does... Yeah, on 122, it's talking about the PAC, I thought. Maybe not.
Page 122.
You mean the signs?
Yeah, or, I just know that we're building these steps, and I'm just wondering how they're being paid.
Okay. I don't follow.
It's not on there. She wants to know how the staircase is being paid.
How they are paid?
How's the staircase being funded?
The HUD.
It has nothing to do with the vouchers.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm missing your question.
I was talking about the PAC, and maybe I just made I was looking at this page, and I thought I saw, yeah, the PAC down here, other improvements. PAC, it's under other improvements at the bottom of page 122. There's 4 different things here about the PAC. And I'm just trying to figure out, are those stairs that are being put in, those steps, included in here?
Okay.
No. This is the signage. Graphic House Inc. is the company that put up the sign on the outside of the pack.
Oh.
I'm just wondering where the money's coming from.
The retainage.
Is that a part of the original budget, or has the budget been amended?
If you're talking about the retainage for Performing Arts Center, the way the retainage works.
Now, I'm talking about the stairs or the steps or
The
whatever.
stairs are funded by REIT money,
Okay, I just.
unrelated to any of these vouchers.
Okay, that's all, because when the PAC is here, I just wanted to know where the stairs are being paid from.
Actually, I think that is one of the questions that our Deputy Mayor under asked. I think we make about $500,000 payment
What page?
in August And that is, again, I think like the city attorney mentioned, we're paying for it from out of lift fund and out of the grant that was received. Remember, lift, when we actually make that presentation to the council, is use it or lose it. So, and that is part of why we're doing this staircase, because if we don't use it in 2020, in 2019, I think we have it till 2039. So for a long period of time. So, and if we don't use it, we lose it. So it's coming out of lift?
Yeah,
out
that's
of the
fine. I
grant?
just wanted to know where the money's coming
Okay.
from, that's all. Thank you. Anything else?
Ajay, you don't have to go through all the questions I asked unless you want to, but on the one for the U.S. Department for Geese Management at Still Lake, do you know how they manage the geese? Or could someone get back to me on that one?
Yeah, actually, I sent the email. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing because of the echo.
Oh, yeah. So I know that the geese can be managed a few different ways, and I'm just wondering how these geese were managed at Still Lake. Whoever did that, whatever department, if they could let me know how they managed the geese and for this payment. Does that make sense? Okay, thanks.
Okay, where are we?
Some of the other payments on page 127, you have actually the 159, which is a principal payment for the HUD on page 127. Then you also have, I think you asked some questions regarding the $600, the 95. Those are filming. The city hired the individual to film the 4th of July, the foreign consulate, the Korean American national sport. So that is what those amounts were used to pay for.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to forward the vouchers to the October 1st, 2019 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Okay, motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on.
Moving on to the,
I think you're on again, Ade. As a matter of fact, you're on for the rest of the meeting.
moving on to the monthly financial report. The notable areas are the CD permits and fees. We have $1 million, which is about 65% above the 2019 year-to-date. So that is part of, when we do budget amendment, the excess revenue that I mentioned, that is where part of it will come from. So we've generated more revenue in building permit than we actually had in the budget. So that would be a good thing. Also, business license fee is about $16,000 or 8% below year-to-date, but it's $18,000 higher than 2018. So for business license, we've also done a little bit well. Just so that you know, I think there's a discussion about business license. Next month, which is October, we're switching totally to the state system, where the citizens or the business owners can go to the state website, renew their state license, and renew the city license. The beauty about this is, if you have a company that has license in Federal Way, license in Auburn, license in Kent, and if they go through the state, they can renew all of the 3 cities and the state on one single web page. That way, they don't have to go to the city of Federal Way, city of Auburn, or city of Kent to do the renewal. So it will now reduce the city's fee, and actually for those that are going to the state website anyway, it will not increase their cost either. So I think that will take effect next month. Also, property tax shows just about 2.3% over the 2019 year to date, and the big number is actually, if you look at page 208, which is the fund activity summary, that shows where we are compared to where we're supposed to be. General fund, our fund balance is 9.3 million, and yes, we're supposed to be at 9.5. Part of the reason for that is, second part of the property tax doesn't come in until October. That is the essence of that fund balance, for us to use it as a cash flow to be able to pay our bills pending the time that the second part of the property tax will come in. So if you were to compare this page to last year, you will see a dip in our fund balance also. So other than that, the rest of the other funds are performing as expected.
Okay. Question? No questions, okay. Let's continue.
There's a vote on this one.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I move to forward the July 2019 monthly financial report to the October 1st, 2019 consent agenda for approval.
I'll second that.
Second?
Oh, Lydia seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried.
Madam Chair, can I ask, I missed the motion on item F. Did we combine motions for both vouchers in a one motion, or did we skip G? We should make a motion on G.
Mhm.
The August vouchers.
What did we do, didn't we?
We just did one.
We just did July.
Oh, we didn't do 29?
I think some of the answers that I gave are also part of August.
Yeah, the discussion was all of them. We need 2 motions.
All right, so,
Okay, I can make a motion.
go ahead.
Madam Chair, I move to forward the vouchers to the October 1st, 2019 consent agenda for approval.
Second?
Motion made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries.
Moving on to August financial report. For the August financial report is similar to July. CD permit fee, that is about 1.2 million and 69% above the 2019 year-to-date. And again, business license is also higher, so there seems to be a pattern in that. Property tax is above 2018 year-to-date actual by 155 and above 2019 year-to-date budget by 66. Even though it's above 2019, but again, for cash flow purposes, I think we're still less in terms of cash, and again, that will be reflected in the fund balance in general fund. On page 213, if you were to look at the general fund, that is the general fund and street, the fund balance there, again, has decreased to 9,180,000. The minimum that we're supposed to have in there is 9.5. Again, you will see that trend until October. So when the second part of the property tax come in October, that will go back up to more than 9.5 million. On page 217, again, just to call the attention of the Lake Haven litigation, you can see what we paid month to date, $1,056. Year to date in 2019, $58,000. Project year to date, $264,000. You know, and that is where we are on that. On Prop 1, based on some of the questions that I have answered over the email, if you notice, the total revenue in the budget is $2.685 million, and the total spending is $3.4. So the citizens often ask, oh, are we spending all the money on Prop 1? Actually, we're spending all of the money from Prop 1, and we're subsidizing some of the items that are listed in Prop 1. When the Prop 1 was passed, it listed the items that we will pay for. At that time, they used the salary as of that time. The revenue hasn't grown that much, but the cost has gone up. And that is part of why we're having to subsidize some of the positions that are listed in the Prop 1 with other money other than Prop 1 tax. So, and on the last page, page 224, again, you know, all the ending fund balance other than the general fund and the street are doing what they're supposed to be doing or doing better. But the general fund is shy of 9.5, and it will be like that till October.
Do we have, is that it?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to forward the August 2019 monthly financial report to the October 1st, 2019 consent agenda for approval.
Second?
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Moving on to the financial policy is just to bring the committee and the council up to date on what we're doing. Recently, City of Ellensburg was defrauded by $186,000. I think what we are doing here, I do believe we need to be one step ahead of these people. I think for these criminals, all they have to do is to be lucky once. I think for people like us, we have to be lucky all the time. I think we're making some changes where we would not approve changes just via an email request. Even up till today, you know, we've received 2 emails. Oh, change my direct deposit, which are fake. You know, so we've instituted that we would not approve direct deposit requests based on email. We would not approve a contractor sending us an email that, oh, wire my money to this account, which is what happened with City of Ellensburg. Also, we would not be rushed to pay bills. And I think this is probably more important to the council, because just in case a contractor comes in, oh, City of Federal Way is slow in paying my bills, I think we want to make sure all the dots are dotted, all the T's are crossed, and not just rush. Again, that is what happened with City of Ellensburg. They got that email, said, well, we need cash in a hurry, please do this, and they rush it. And by the time the real contractor realized that, the money was long gone. So we will not be rushed. We're taking our time, and we're making sure we just don't take electronic information as it is. So, but we're responding to what is happening. It's just to inform the committee and the council on what we're doing.
Thank you. Next one is the budget amendment update.
Budget amendment, also, that is just to update the council, where the departments have started making their requests, actually since yesterday. So at October, Fedrac, we should bring forth some of the rough draft from the mayor. You know, I think it needs to be approved by December, but we're starting very early. Just so that you know, we will amend 2020 again shortly in the month of March, because we usually try to reflect the fund balance. We will not know what the ending fund balance in 2019 will be until we close the book on 2019. And also, part of how we will spend the score money, which is to do salary increase and position study. We will not get the result of that study until early next year. So the saving from score, most of it will not be appropriated until that time. So even though we're doing this budget amendment, we will be amending 2020 again early next year because of some of those new developments. So again, it's just an information only to update the council where we are. Moving on to budget registration, business registration. There are so many flyers, and I've included some in your handout of part of what we're doing. I think it will be a good thing for the businesses in Federal Way. It will save them time. I think it will be more efficient. And I think for somebody that has a business license through the state that doesn't have business license with Federal Way, I think that will also be a quick catch, because when they register with the state and they identify they are in Federal Way, I can promptly, the state will be able to point out they need to have Federal Way license also. So I think it will be a good thing.
I like that idea. Okay. Any questions? Or?
Moving on to the score update.
All right.
I think it's just to an FY information to let you know how we are doing. And I think actually the ADP for the city of Federal Way, if you look at page 262, I think we are the lowest we've ever been since I've been with the city of Federal Way. For the month of August, our ADP was 38. So I think in terms of whether, I think there's some question, or the city's living score, will they be able to make it? That is an indication that not only will we make it, if we're able to sustain the ADP like this, we will actually do really, really well. So I think the effort on that ADP is due to the effort of our police department, the courts, and I truly commend them for their efforts in, managing the ADP. But the bottom line is, if we're able to keep this up next year, for people that think Federal Way leaving the score will be hurting, we will actually be doing really, really well. And that is
That's
my
it?
report, yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other business for the committee? Hearing none, then I just announced the next meeting is October 22nd at 4:30 PM. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We always echo like this.
No, Lydia.